Hello, welcome to the latest Aqua Retail lockdown video. Today, 3 topics for the price of 1. Those subjects are job offers, resigning and counter offers. 3 topics that of course go really well together, and 3 topics which are so much more complicated than you ever think they're going to be. The reason of course they're so complicated is because it's not just about the job. It's about your lifestyle. It's about so much when you're in a role that you hate and it ruins your life, or you're in a job that you love and it just makes such a difference to how you feel about yourself. So, cracking on with those subjects. The first one, you've successfully interviewed, you've been offered the job. What can you do to make sure that that offer is right? I know some people who just make that decision based on their gut, based on their instinct. They've met the people at the interview stages, they've been to the office, they've got a feel for the place. That's often enough for them. However, merchandisers tend to be a little bit more pragmatic about the way they make their decisions. So the things that you can really look at. The first one is money. Is the offer the money that you are looking for? Generally, you're looking at a 10 to 15% uplift by way of salary, usually in the 12% bracket. If you're an assistant merchandiser, and we all know how in demand they are, then probably you may be able to get a little bit more than that, simply because there are just so few of them. However, in the main, through the industry, it's around a 12% uplift. I know people who work in other industries, and I'm always gobsmacked when they tell me that they've had a 40% pay rise, but not in retail. So look at that money. How is that? Look at a car allowance. Does that make a difference to your package? Look at pension. How much do they pay? How much are you expected to pay? Look at healthcare. Do you get healthcare in your current package but not in the new one? If that's the case, you might want to perhaps look into how much it would cost for you to keep it and what that would cost per month. Again, what difference that makes to the previous salary and the future salary. And also holiday. Now, if you've worked in your current company for a long time, you will have accrued a lot of holiday because of your loyalty. You may be losing some of that in your new role. How important is that to you? And is it something you can buy and sell as well? Is there a way for you to manage to get the lifestyle piece that you want if you're used to a certain amount of time off? So look at those factors. The other things to look at are making sure you've really done your due diligence in terms of what the company's like. Now, it's retail. We all know someone who knows someone. Ask around. Make sure that the culture is what you believe it to be from the vibe you got at the interview. There's a website called Glassdoor. You can have a look on there and see what people are saying about what it's like to work for them as well. Although, of course, be careful that they're not talking about store roles rather than head office roles, because that can make a big difference. And the journey. Now, if you've interviewed via Zoom, as you may well be right now, you of course haven't tried the journey. Also, if your interviews have been taking place at maybe 11 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, you've not really tried the journey at rush hour. Make sure you do that, whether you're sitting in traffic, whether you're on the most horrendous train line known to man. You don't want to be taking a job that's going to leave you travelling for 3 hours a day, because while those first couple of weeks in the new role are going to be shiny and amazing, the novelty's going to wear off pretty quickly if you're fed up with your commute. So, all things considered, if you're happy to go ahead and accept, read through the small print, set your start date. Then it's time to resign. Now, resigning can either be extremely joyous or really emotional and really difficult. It's joyous if you're having one of those sort of Bridget Jones style resignations and you're leaving a boss you hate and a company you hate, a place that perhaps you feel has wronged you and not treated you very well. However, realistically, it's likely to be that it's a difficult decision to leave that boss because you like her and you like your team and you like him and you like your team. Correcting myself there. I think that it's quite normal for there to be tears in a resignation from either party or both. What you need to do ahead of that resignation is to have your letter. Your letter needs to be short and sweet, professional. Thanks ever so much for everything the company's done for me. Unfortunately, it's now time for me to move on. Tendering my resignation. This will be my last day. You know what your last day will be based on your contract. And again, the meeting need only be that brief too. There's no need to say so much. There's definitely no need to say anything negative. As we know, it's a small industry. These things can bite you on the bum further down the line. So just keep it really to the point. Now, of course, interestingly, you will then start to serve your notice, maybe 4 weeks, maybe 12 weeks. But if you're going to a direct competitor, you might be put on garden leave. That, of course, would be if you were working for a fashion footwear business and going to another fashion footwear business, then they're not going to want you being a spy in the camp, listening out to what the new collections are going to be and then promptly feeding back to your new boss. So do be prepared ahead of your resignation to know that you might actually be marched out of the building. You might want to make sure that you've cleared your desk, hand cream, boxes of cup of soup, spare pair of trainers, whatever it is you keep under there. And the same with your computer. You may of course have some personal photos in there, you may have iTunes, you may have email addresses, etc. So make sure that you've cleared out everything that would be personal to you, just in case you do end up leaving there and then. So the other thing that can happen when you resign is that you can be counteroffered, which is highly frustrating when you've sat there asking for promotion and pay rises for however long and got nowhere, and apparently it takes you to resign and have to go through an interview process for them to start paying attention. Now that is just the ultimate slap in the face, but it happens a lot. It happens a lot for a lot of reasons. The first one is, and this is putting it really bluntly, it's going to be a real pain to not have you at your desk. You're the expert, you're the go-to person that everybody knows in the entire head office when they have a problem with a certain thing, and they don't want to be without that. They also don't want to be trawling through lots of CVs, because that takes time, doing lots of interviews, because that takes time, and potentially paying a recruitment fee, because that takes money. So far better to just give you another $3 grand and send you back to your desk with a loose promise that you might get promoted in the next 6 months, than it is to let you walk out the door. So that's the first one. The other things, of course, are if you were to stay, let's say you're happy with the counteroffer, you believe the promises, aren't you the person that was disloyal enough to go off and interview somewhere else? The likelihood is that if an exciting, juicy project comes along over the next few months, you may not be given that to work on because they think potentially they're not happy, they might leave anyway. And there's all sorts of statistics that show just what a huge percentage it is of people who accept a counteroffer who then leave within 4 months later. So yeah, you don't want to have that sort of black mark on your head, I don't think. Finally, is the subject of exit interviews. Now, a lot of businesses do that. It's a really good opportunity to professionally air frustrations that you've had. Of course, if everybody is saying the same thing about a particular line manager, albeit as diplomatically as you can, it may be that HR start to deal with the problem. So for the sake of the rest of the people who are leaving behind, if there is an issue, do share it. And then finally, your leaving do. This is not the opportunity to get exceptionally drunk because, as we know, it is a small industry. Everybody knows everybody, and it's always best to leave with your head held high. So 3 very interesting subjects there. With any luck, at some point soon, it'll be something relevant to everybody when there is a little bit more recruitment taking place. But for now, food for thought, hope it's of use, and I'll see you again next week.